talk about recruiting. This is the one position, and you just hit on it, that gets very little attention unless you are a hardcore recruiting guy, and which you are. And place kicking. Why do some of the best schools in the nation not come up with good place kicking? And then you see these group of five kickers, not on a regular basis, not that it's a descending scale or anything, from all over the place. And it would seem to me that the best schools would get the best kickers because it is so critical those couple times per year.
Yeah, and I think that it's just comfort, honestly. And some of the special teams coordinators or whoever has that position, because they usually have a secondary that is their secondary position. So it's who has the expertise, and then like the grad assistants who are there and things like that, and they just have better systems in some places. So yeah, I mean, it is. Sometimes people, you just pick where you pick. Am I going to go to Alabama as a punter? And remember a couple of years ago when like their punter didn't punt until like the fifth or sixth game? You know what I mean? Am I going to go there? And I mean, like, I'll win and get a ring, or am I going to go Mississippi State where I can maybe win 8 games, but I'm going to punt 3 times more? You know what I mean? So there is some of that. And, guys just develop later, and the way that the team runs their special teams. So you have like the rugby style punters, because Miami's gone to that with an Australian guy, as the punter. So like that is their scheme and paradigm, and just the way that they teach place kickers and things like that. So, and then sometimes you just get guys who don't necessarily have the goods. Bubba Baxa was a top recruit coming out of high school as a kicker. His percentage, I think, in his career now is down in the 60s at the college level, approaching 50%, I want to say, at place kicking. That's not good enough. And that, unfortunately, sometimes happens. And then, sometimes teams will also not allocate scholarships to kickers and then just have walk-ons and then hope that they work. And then maybe, down the line, you earn a scholarship for a year or two or something like that. So, yeah, it is the third phase of the game that sometimes does get overlooked. But kicking and punting is really important. And, Miami has obviously seen that. Zach Fiegels was quite mediocre at best as a punter. You upgrade that with Lewis Headley. Bubba Baxa, for having a strong leg that can kick it, a mile and a half. His direction and aim was not necessarily where it needed to be either. So, yeah, sometimes things just unfortunately don't go the way that you would hope for them. But that's more of a spotlight on that position because you only play 5 or 6 snaps a game, but you're the guy at an integral engagement for those snaps, as opposed to, your Lorenzo Lingard, your Tavian Feaster, who was a 5-star, rated way higher than Travis Etienne at Clemson, didn't really do anything, and all of a sudden now he transfers out. So, it's just kind of the hit or miss nature of athletic development.
MiamiMoneyball.com. Check it out if you know the stats and know how to project stats. You can win a ton of prizes there at MiamiMoneyball.com. If you love the Florida teams, that means Florida, Florida State, Miami, and the Miami Dolphins. Jump in right there. Cam, whether your measuring period is going to be from week 1 to date, or you're going to go all the way back to the conclusion of 2018 to date, most improved players on this team, who has really stood out as, wow, this guy has really stepped up his game. He's just a better player.
I mean, well, you got to start with Gregory Rousseau, who's second or third in the nation with 12 sacks as redshirt freshman. I mean, he has to be in that conversation, just period. D. Wiggins is taking a big step forward. Jaron Williams is taking a big step forward. Gervin Hall is taking a big step forward. There's a lot of guys who have developed on this team and have really, just been a little, or, just more, just better, just gotten better. We talk about with Jaron Williams, how the game is starting to slow down for him. You know, he's like Neo at the end of the first Matrix, where he's starting to be able to see the code and everything, as evidenced by last week. Because I mean, Louisville did try some stuff, but it didn't work because he saw it and was able to rely on his offensive line, have the time, and even when he really didn't have time, just stay in there and say, "I'm going to take this one in the chin, but I'm going to put that ball right where I want it." So that's been pretty great. But yeah, I would say that those guys are probably the ones individually who are the most improved that I've seen over the course of this year. And then just collectively, the offensive line as a unit has just taken such a big step forward. And, you know, again, I like to say this because I think it was just such a great point that my colleague Bud Elliott made about Florida State with their offensive line. Said going from atrocious to bad is an improvement. And everybody wants to go from atrocious to great. And I think that Miami went from bad to mediocre throughout the course of this year. And that's a big step forward. And I know that, I mean, the last couple of guys, or couple of games have been objectively good performance from the offensive line. So if you can go from bad to mediocre to pushing good in the course of a year, so like 2 levels up from where you were, that's pretty great. I've seen the question a couple of times, so I'm going to answer it. Xavier Restrepo is going to play offense. The end. I mean, he's going to be a slot receiver here. That's the thing that he does best at the high school level. I know that he does play both ways at the high school level, because when you're in high school, you play both ways, especially, you know, if you're one of the better players and you're not a quarterback, you know. So yeah, he does play offense and defense for Deerfield Beach, but Xavier Restrepo is recruited here to be a slot receiver, and that's what he's going to do.